Welcome to Wickerson Studios. My name is Michael Wickerson, and I've been working on a couple of projects. They just happen to be kind of non-disclosure agreements, so I've had to keep quiet. So now I'm just doing some creative work where that work's led me, which is back to where I was a year ago, playing in FOLOGRAM and with KUKA plugins. So I'm just going to do a basic one here that's not related to what I was working on, but I wanted to break it down to what's going on. And I won't be pulling this on my phone, my iPhone, out into FOLOGRAM, but it's not that hard. I've got at the very top FOLOGRAM, really the things you'll need within FOLOGRAM, which I have as a plugin up here. Pretty minimal. I think it's over here. There it is. Let me just shrink that. FOLOGRAM is going to give you sync parameters and synced objects. That's basically all I use. I don't get into any of this tracking development that they've done, which is pretty awesome. I find that's all I need, so I just put that up into the top thing. I've got a number slider here that allows me to lift and lower the pieces there, so I can make the robots follow different paths. But I've snapped that number slider, and that's the only one I've actually when you bring in this node here, the sync parameters, you can just click on these ones when you actually recognizes all number sliders, and then you can sync 3 of them without paying for FOLOGRAM to your phone, so you can actually have some parametric control while you're playing an AR, and then you'll just have to bring the synced object out. I think because there's a few points generated in the KUKA PRC cores, it can't make points in augmented reality. So it's okay if it's red, it's still running an awful lot of data. With one runtime error, but it's still bringing out all these geometries. So it works fairly smooth. And all you have to do to get FOLOGRAM working, which is totally amazing, is go back just the way you typed in Grasshopper and type in FOLOGRAM. As soon as you do that, you're going to have a QR code, or that links, and you can just set your phone up as long as you have the app on there. You do quite a bit with your testing. It's a little slow and jumpy. It doesn't run a full robotics, but simulation, but it is nice because once you have it on your phone, you can kind of take it anywhere in public and show people your program without the movement. You can kind of, I popped it up on the ice rink with my kids' hockey game yesterday, so that was fun. So that's the FOLOGRAM. But basically, when it comes to making an articulation work, I'm going to break it into the parts, and I'm going to start with Carl Singlein's test scripts that he has online for you to look at when you download the plugin KUKA, which is basically this really awesome tool for dealing with KUKA PRC cores, bringing that in. There's a bunch of other things here where you have to know your linear movements, your circular movements, your axis movements. I will get there. And then you got a choice of all these wonderful robots, which are amazing. I really like using the little white one. That kind of makes me happy because I like my rendering in white. And sorry, I don't like the KUKA orange. You shouldn't say that, or they'll never ever support me. I'd rather have it just white and clear. But I do like those two models. The Agilus and Agilus KR. What is that? 1100, and this one is the 540. So maybe one day I'll be able to get one of these. And then your virtual tools are amazing. You can bring them in, but I just use a custom tool and just build geometries as a mesh. And then the tool paths, offsetting your tool path and using some of these nodes helps. And then I don't know how much I get into the utilities of weighting and things like that. I certainly am not saving my files. I'm not importing files. I probably need to do that as a pipeline. I think there's a pipeline. What is that? I never remember. Geometry pipeline to bring things in, which may be a better format than just getting a geometry pipeline to work over here instead of me bringing in lines and then internalizing them, which is all I'm really doing. I can extract the parameters. And those curves are basically where you start, whether you bring in a geometry or not. What I did was a quick loft on the points on a surface. I did an interpolate. I mirrored it, I offset it, I worked in the negative, and basically I built my geometry that is going to give me lines. And in doing so, it gives me some really nice lines. So if I select them, you can see there what I'm actually getting. A tool path, and they're separate because I ran 2 KUKAs. There's one above and one below. I've just kind of stepped and staggered it and done similar things when I could, but because the geometries are different, I figured I'd have 2 systems here. You want to put that all to points. So you take your curves to points. Then, of course, you need to orient it, and there's a wonderful tool for orienting to a point on a plane. This really helps with the final head's wrist articulation. Very simple little nodes, KUKA PRC orient plane. And then this is directly from Carl Singlein's planes to LIN, which will be 5 millimeter offset. He says that because he actually set this to 5 offset, but if you're going to make that parametric, then you're going to want to make this parametric. So it only, I guess what would be best is not to make that parametric. Just go in there and type something like quote 5, and then you get a hard-coded thing in there, and that's probably a better way to do it instead of doubling up data. It's probably a better way to go. So I'm just going to file, save that. And those commands are then turned into a KUKA PRC axis offset, which is cool. Then you're going to flatten additional 30 millimeters only at the very first and very last position of the toolpath. I hope I opened this file under millimeters. It probably didn't. But once again, I'm going to do the same thing and just type in a 30 hard code and put that in so it's not parametric, so it matches with my scribble tool as I go. And I can change it back and change this text. I'm just using the scribble node. If you don't know what I'm doing here, it's really nice. SCR scribble, and then you're able to bring in any text you want. Then I customize my tooltip, which is not very hard at all. It's basically just this little cone that if I take it here and go to preview, I think I have to do it within the group area to see it. Come on, preview. There we go. You see this little tiny tooltip there that I set to 150 millimeters high, which means the tool offset. When you go in here, you're going to have to set that. Actually, I think it's 180. No, it was 100 on the z-axis. So I think I actually set that 150. So I probably, to get it to go right, I'd probably have to bring this back to 100. And since I've set the tool set and this is set to 100, I probably should just do the same as I'm changing the height of that. You can see that influences everything. Let's just hard code that one in again. Because in FOLOGRAM, anyhow, I'm not going to have that many, and I'm just going to group that in there as well. So that I'm not going to actually have more than 3 parameters to control. So I'll just take this one and put that back to, how do I do it? Preview off. There we go. And so that's going to put it into that geometry tool. That's going to set it up. And I did bring in this, which is very hard to find because they don't give it to you anymore. So you got to go into Carl's old scripts and try and find within him a KUKA PRC play, because that Control Shift locate is not within here. They're not giving it up anymore, and you have to use a number slider for the time, which I use a 0 through 1 to make the articulation, so I control it from completion, beginning to completion. But this is a really nice tool, and I'll have it in my scripts that you can cut and paste. I can't even remember where I found it a year ago, but then they took it out of the latest version of KUKA PRC. And you can see that these kind of dance and play, and there might be some collision with the points. All the more reason to put up a nice little rubber tool head. And of course, you don't want to bump the wrists of these expensive robots. But there is a little warning whenever they do something they can't, but not in collision with one another. I guess you could try and get into collision script to see if they collide with one another. And that's going to be conditional and a lot more coding and scripting. I'll tell you where I am with this, because it's just the basic setup. The virtual robots you can choose from, you just rotate through whatever you like, just a Control Shift, bring it up here, and there'll probably be some errors. There's some errors right there in the orange because they thought they'd bend, and then these ones don't work because they're way too far away from one another trying to follow that path. So as you change your robots, you actually have to consider, okay, where's the orientation, where they're located at the base, is there a rotation on them, how does that work? But you want them basically in orange, or if not, gray, so you know it's running. And that's it. I take them out and put them back in the FOLOGRAM. And you get this really cool augmented reality mesh that's ready to send out. I think it's amazing. Where I am now is I'm trying to customize and do things still with the drawing tool to make this tooltip so I can put something on the end of it, not just this cone, not just this little cone that pops on the end here as a geometry, but actually get in here and make this kind of, the KUKA be a handle on a more stationary thing. So think very simply like a teeter-totter with a fulcrum that's fixed, and you can use the KUKA arm to raise and lower one side so the other side starts to move. It's really just extending the arm to another part. So thinking of this head that moves right here, you're actually making that the piece that you're creating as the geometry. And I've asked Carl Singline for a little advice on that. Maybe conceptually it's a lot more simpler than I think, or fixing a point or orienting a point. But I will get there, and what I'm going to do is creep through and crawl through all of these incredible scripts as I advance them, but I'm going to try and formulate them into these type of Wickerson Studio test examples, and then I'm going to be putting them on my Patreon and let people play and share. I just really like this forum. It's kind of like the two lungs of something. Very poetic, very beautiful. So if I take this down, and just put this over to here and go into... Where was my timer? Oh, sorry to squeeze it off here. I got some stuff there. Yeah, if I go to, where is it? I used to have it, yeah, right here, ready to play. So you can see that you really get this kind of ballet of forms I'm going to go here, get them all up, and just play. And I just love this screen. I just love watching this, and to have a mesh that's articulating without having to go into Kangaroo and program it all yourself. It's really like, what would I do beyond this? And to me, I really find these might be some nice, interesting digital assets in and of themselves. And you can change the robots. You can have some interplay. And I'm trying to extend the human hand or the human mind that you see this as a extension of self, but these aren't human. I mean, they're completely robotic, but a sense of where you go, and then hopefully take these from here into augmented reality. And then when I can afford it, or I can continue to do these experiments with other companies, I can actually have a robot in the safety of an engineer, a KUKA PRC engineer, to help me out with this, or any other type of robot. But I'm set on KUKA. I do have some nice plugins for all different types of robots, but Carl Singline is the bomb. And thanks very much for all of your scripts online. Thanks for watching.